Guru Nation, welcome to another episode of Random Musings from the Clinical Trials Guru. Rod Raphael is my guest. Cheers, Rod. What are you drinking? You're
Here,
drinking coffee?
well, let's say that's what it is.
Okay. Who knows?
No,
Who knows what
it's
this is? It's
it's coffee.
coffee.
That's my
Yes.
wife. My wife hears me in the background.
Yeah.
Rah!
Mine's a black, no cream, no sugar, no milk, just black, with a little bit of CBD sprinkled in. Rod, I've known Rod for years. Rod, I mean, I've even met you, I think, once.
We met in we met in Southern California. My wife and I.
That's right. That's right.
And
Hopefully, I'll meet you at one of these big conferences one of these days. I just came back from DIA. It was pretty good in San Diego. Next year, we're trying to do bio. But, anyways, I've known Rod for years. He's a very successful site owner. He has a very good story, both him and his wife. Um, Entrepreneur. Rod is a networker. You're a master networker, right? So we're going to get into a lot of these things in this interview, but I just wanted to bring you, Guru Nation, another example, another story of somebody who's been doing this for years, okay? And we're going to get into it. So, Rod, thank you very much for coming on. Welcome.
absolutely.
So, can you give us a background of who you are and, you know, pre-research, and then what got you attracted to research, and then we'll get into what you're currently doing.
Well, when I tell you how I got attracted to research, it'll probably be pretty common. Uh, but I grew up in Southern California, like you, in the San Fernando Valley, and went into the Navy in 1983. And I will refer to Annie a lot because she has been on the same journey essentially since we're married. We met there. We were both hospital corpsmen doing direct patient care on a GYN urology floor, if you can imagine those being together. It was
Wow.
unusual, but that's the way the Navy is sometimes. So we met there and got married right away. And she moved down to Southern California when my first child was born there in the Naval Hospital in Oakland. And so she went back to the San Fernando Valley, got a job when she got out. And she got out because she was pregnant. But anyway, she got a job there. And I was commuting back and forth on the weekends from Oakland to LA. But after about 6 months to a year, I was ready to get out. Or my duty was up, and I got out. In fact, it was the day I remember going into a mobile gas station in Los Angeles and looking at the LA Times, and it said something about Gulf War units activated. And our unit was one of the units that would have been activated
Wow.
that day, or had been activated, but I had I guess I kind of went ahead in the story. I had just finished reserves, and
Okay.
she had too. So if we hadn't done that, we would have went to the Gulf War. But regardless, she took the job in Sherman Oaks, California, for a company that wasn't, well, it's now Pacific Oaks Medical Group, and they were next to the Sherman Oaks Hospital. She was going to have to do 2 weeks of active duty, so they asked her if she knew a suitable replacement, which is what they usually will expect you to have, somebody that can take your place while you're gone. She said, sure, my husband can, because I was just getting out. So I went there, and we both ended up staying there for about 6.5 years.
Wow. What were you doing? Like, you guys are nurses by training?
We were medical assistants.
Okay, medical assistants. Okay.
We were working for 3 doctors. It was a family practice. They did allergy shots, they did hot packs, and
Wow.
they did, everything that a family practice typically does in 1985. Let's
Sure.
just put it in perspective. So, come to find out, though, there was her, myself as the medical assistant, one other medical assistant, an X-ray tech, a couple people up front, and 3 doctors. those doctors turned out to be Dr. Joel Wiseman and Eugene Rogalski, who are contributed with helping to discover HIV. They were gay. The three doctors were gay. We didn't know that. One day they came in and said, "We're going to start doing research, and you get to help."
Wow.
So, you know, a lot like,
because this was right before the whole HIV thing really blew up, like before Magic Johnson and all that stuff, right?
It was pre all of that. It was just getting really, really going.
Yeah.
For lack of a better term.
Yeah.
So the disease was really showing up a lot, and because they were gay, they had, even though they were a family practice, they saw a lot of friends that were gay. Mm-hmm. And so they were seeing, and they were from every industry, including Hollywood, and you know, so we saw everybody. They came in, but let me just back up. So that's how we were kind of thrown into research as medical assistants. We didn't know we were going to be doing research. Right. When they talk about the sites that have the binders lining the hallway, that was us.
So what kind of research were they doing? Were they wanting to do their own research, like were they going to be the sponsor and the investigator-initiated trials, or were they looking for industry-sponsored trials?
I think it kind of fell in their lap too.
Oh, okay.
You know, I think GSK and some of the other ones came to them with like the AZT drug, the DD4 drug, DDI, DDC. I mean, I did a KS study. We did all the first studies and no exaggeration, myself, I probably had 100 patients with my physician, and she had 100 patients with her physician on that first AZT study easily. Mm-hmm. So it was put your roller skates on and you better be able to move. But that's how we got started in research. And that one, and I remember thinking then, well, why can't we hire a physician and do this? We do all the, I know I shouldn't say that.
Coordinators do all the work.
It feels like the coordinators do all the work.
Yeah, I'll say it for you. The coordinators do all the work most of the time.
And you know what? That's how we've always based our business model on, is that we do everything for you and all you do is see the patient. Mm-hmm. And that's really the way it should be for them. But so that's how we got started. When we left there, they had 15 physicians. They had a full reference lab, 300 employees, 2 offices. They're back to being a small practice now, but
okay.
You hear about like Matthew McConaughey and the Buyers Club, and
good movie.
Real, and the band plays on was a movie, I think, also, but it was a book that tells about the AIDS epidemic.
So so basically you were the coordinator for this group of doctors in LA. How long were you doing that until you got the idea, hey, I can actually do this on my own?
So we were there for about 6 years. It was 1985. And in about, let's say 2006, Annie came home from an investigators meeting and said that she'd met another coordinator who introduced her physician as his employee.
Wow, okay. 2006.
And I said, what do you mean? She said, he works for him. I said, so you mean to say, what you're telling me is he's doing what I thought we should be doing all along. I just didn't know how to do it. I wasn't, mature enough maybe, or savvy enough, hadn't done it long enough. I don't know. So I went out that week and found 2 physicians that wanted to do research.
Wow. Now, that you found them in a week. That's really impressive, actually. I'm in the middle of looking for one now from one of my sites, and I tell the sites all the time, your job is to always be recruiting physicians because you never want to depend too much on one. You can never have too many. So that's really good. This was, you said, 2006, around that time?
It was. I think a little bit before you started clinical trials guru and all of that, but
Hmm.
not long before that, I don't think.
That's when I was starting my site too in 2006. So
Yeah,
I was in the same boat, kind of figuring out, how to build a site and all those kind of things. But yeah, that's really cool.
exactly. And we went through, two or three physicians, and we have a really good PI now that we've been with for about 10 years. And
Okay.
um,
So let me ask you. I have a theory, and it's never proven me wrong. Okay, between me, the sites I own, my clients, the people I network with informally and formally, your first PI when you're a research naive site, I
he's
have
gone.
it's gone, right? Like
Yeah,
you've experienced that also.
yeah, they're both gone. The
Why do
two
you
that
think
I
that
started,
is? Why is it that
they
like
weren't
that is like a
progressed.
law? Like why does that happen?
For us, they weren't really. The mix just wasn't right.
They didn't want to do their part.
They didn't. Yeah, they didn't want to see. They didn't want to do their part. Um,
Wanted the money, but not to the part.
she's right.
Not the
I don't know
money.
if you can hear her in the
Who's
background. They
that?
wanted the
Anne?
money. Yeah, that's Annie. She doesn't want to be on screen now. She's working at her desk. They
Okay,
wanted the
okay.
money, but they really didn't want to do research. Um, and it just wasn't a good fit. So I went and found another physician that actually, and it was an unusual setup. He actually was opening an urgent care, and we worked there to build the research.
In
I
LA?
worked there.
Were you doing this in LA?
No, we were here in
Oh,
Indianapolis
okay.
already.
So
We
you
had
were
moved, and I wasn't in research. I sold cars for like 10 years.
okay, okay.
After the whole HIV practice in LA, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done.
I see.
Um, but I'll tell you, it was selling cars. You learn a lot about people, and
Those are good skill. I tell every researcher, like, no, if you own a site, you're a salesperson. Number one, that's like your main role. And in our industry, for whatever reason, people look down on that. They don't want to come off as salespeople, but you're a salesperson. Even if
right,
you own a site and you're a key opinion leader in the industry and you go to all these conferences and give presentations and keynotes, what are you doing at the end of the day? You're selling. You're showing
yeah,
them that you have authority in the space and you're promoting indirectly your company.
yeah. No, I agree wholeheartedly. It's selling cars and negotiating the car sale itself was the best thing I ever did for budgets.
Wow,
Um,
how so? How so? How does that work?
well, it's much easier because I'm not face to face with them. I'm on the phone or on an email doing it. It's kind of like hiding behind Facebook or Twitter.
That's
But
right.
no, I mean, that's one of the reasons I'm not still selling cars because I didn't like the face to face. I didn't feel comfortable um, giving them a car payment and trying to peel them off the ceiling and get them down to reality as to what their car payment would really be.
Hmm.
But um, negotiating the budget is much in the same sense. I mean, you have to go back and forth with the sponsor or the CRO to get to get that budget. And if I just had a study recently, and it's the first time I felt this way probably in 10 years or 13 years, I left money on the table. And what I mean by that is they took my first offer
Hmm.
on the budget. So I feel like I probably could have gotten a better budget.
Yeah, but I mean, and this is a good topic. We can. There's a couple of things I want to talk about as far as budgets are concerned. Now, I haven't really done a budget in years. Chris has been doing that. He took over that aspect, but I used to do them all the time. And what I'm understanding is despite the surplus of studies right now, this is 2019, 2020, there's never been more research studies in the history of research, right? The budgets, the sponsors have actually gotten a little stingier than they were when we both started in 2006. This is when we both kind of started our own sites. I mean, back then when I started, I didn't know, but the variable was just all over the place. You had some sites making 3 times more than what another site made. Nowadays, it's a little more even amongst the sites. Maybe you'll have a site making like 1.5 times more per patient, but not 3. Maybe it was even 5 times back then, right?
Right. And they do look at where you're located too. I mean, geographically in the United States, and go by that too.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, budget, and I didn't even know to ask for overhead for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, I did ask for it. But here's the thing: I was asking for a small percentage where I should have been asking for twice as what I was asking for.
Yeah.
And I think you and I had a conversation about that one day.
Yeah.
I mean, what's really helped me with the budgeting is if you have a justification letter, if you have it in writing why you're asking for the percentage that you're asking for, you're going to get very close to it, if not get it every time.
Yeah, you need a justification for everything. Now, another thing I wanted to ask about contracts and budgets, and by the way, we always ask for 40%. We usually end up getting like 30 as far as the overhead. But it doesn't hurt to ask, right?
I ask 35, and I usually get 30 or 35.
Yeah.
Usually 30.
But now you brought up something interesting because you didn't realize how much money you left on the table. We never really know unless we network with other sites what we left on the table, right? How do
I do that now.
You do that, and how do you network? Because networking is so important in this industry. Is it at investigator meetings, conferences? How is it that you network with other sites?
It's been mostly at investigator meetings. And I'm always amazed at how many people own their own site or want to own their own site as coordinators. I mean, there's a lot of coordinator-owned research sites out there.
A lot.
Probably 50%.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I
mean, I don't know what you would think, but I would guess 50% of them are.
I think so, and I think they make the best owners. I think what I'm starting to see a lot lately, and by lately I mean the last 2-3 years in this industry, is a lot of CRA-owned sites, which is something kind of new. Or maybe it's always been going on, but I've been alerted to it 2 or 3 years ago, and it's just been picking up. Like now, maybe 1 out of every 5 of my calls for people wanting to hire us to do their site services are CRAs. Currently active CRAs.
They're monitors, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I can tell you that seems like about 1 out of 4, 1 out of 5 are either interested in. They're interested in owning their own site.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, hasn't been that many years, and I don't see it quite as bad now. But there hasn't been that many years where some of these monitors had 7, 8, 9 studies and 15 sites, or maybe more, and they were traveling 5 days a week. I mean, or 6 days a week, and they burn out quick.
I just talked to one earlier today. I mean, a CRA, oncology CRA, wants to start her site, training her husband on how to do it. Just like you and your wife, you're the power couple in research, the dynamic duo. What are some of the challenges in maintaining your site year after year? Because in 2006, when we both started in 2006, now you were way smarter than me because you worked in the industry in the 80s. In 2006, we had a really good run for a couple years, right? And then the recession happened. But I was just out of college, so I just assumed the market would go up forever, right? And then I learned the hard way when I expanded into what is now the Great Recession. At the time, I didn't know what it was, but that was foolish. So I learned the hard way. But I learned the importance of diversifying your studies and never relying on one investigator. So what are some of the things you've learned throughout the years, and how did the recession impact you guys?
Well, I when we started, you don't want to put a lot of money out. You don't want to go and hire 2 coordinators and rent space and all of that kind of stuff.
That's what I did.
We shared space we the doctor allowed us to use his space to see patients, and we, paid him a percentage of the study. But since then, it's the one thing that I know about this is industry is don't ever think that a study isn't going to come back to see you. And by saying what I mean by that is you may see a study today that you won't get or hear back about until January or the middle of next year. So don't throw those studies away. I mean, I keep them for at least a year because sometimes they get delayed. They get add-on sites. They don't.
Add-on sites. That's the beautiful thing is the add-on sites. I love being an add-on site.
But, there's struggles. There's being an owner isn't exactly what I thought it would be.
How so?
There's paychecks and your employee's livelihood rely on those paychecks, and you got to have that. You better have it, whether you pay yourself or not. You better be able to pay them, and you better be able to pay the stipends to the patients, because otherwise, without patients or your coordinators, you're dead in the water pretty much. I mean, you can be the coordinator, which we were. We didn't hire anybody for quite a while.
Best way to get started. Bootstrap, share the space. You did everything exactly how I'm recommending clients get started now. Share the space, do the coordinating, learn how to be a coordinator if you don't know how, and then start spending money. Spend money later when you're already bringing in revenue, then start spending. Okay, but not before, because now you're taking a huge risk, a huge gamble.
But I don't think our story is anything special. I think it's a lot like a lot of people in this industry. They didn't know how to do research when they started. They were pretty much given a study to work on. We didn't know that a lot of anything about research when we started. And then to open our own practice or site, it wasn't because you told me not to put a bunch of money up front. It was because I couldn't pay rent, and I had to do it that way and my wife still worked a second job. So
it takes sacrifice. People don't understand that.
Yeah, for the first year, I worked full time, and she worked a full-time research job on the other end of town that they didn't know that, and we didn't take any competing studies with them. And then I said, Annie, you have to quit. We will never grow. We will never expand it if I don't have you with me here. But that was a real leap of faith. No paycheck, and you got to be able to survive during that time.
Now you guys, since then, so you've been around, at least as a site owner, since 2006. So going on, almost 15 years, soon to be, right? 14? Something like that?
Yeah, 13? Almost 14.
I mean, you've
14 in January, but
you've survived all the cycles. You got in when it was a good market, then the recession happened, then that took long for the market to recover, and then it started recovering in around 2015, 2016, and now we're like at the peak. Hopefully it just continues for a while, but I always tell people, this is not going to last. Like, if you're going to get started, do it now. Prepare for the inevitable. I mean, it may not be as bad as the last recession, but the market has contracts, right? So it goes up, goes down. Every indication also has peaks and valleys. So you need to diversify. You need to know these things beforehand. And you may not know exactly. You won't be able to predict, but you have to prepare. Be prepared as if that is going to happen. So talk to me a little bit about how Investigator Research Group has grown since 2006. Like, what studies did you start with, and then what are you guys currently doing? Any new investigators? All those kind of things.
Well, we were a little desperate in the beginning, like most. We took a C. diff study, a psoriasis study, and an arthritis. The arthritis out of the three was the best study, but I have a saying in this industry is it isn't the sponsor, it's the team. Your study is only as good as that sponsor's team or the CRO's team. So we ended up at one point we had to tell them,
Lock it down.
we're locking the study down. We will continue to see patients. We will continue to enter the data, but until you pay us.
So they weren't paying you early on.
Right.
So, and that's one of the things that a lot of people coordinators don't realize they can do that in a lot of the cases, or sites don't realize. If you're not getting your checks or your payments, and I think you and I and a lot of people have been instrumental in getting monthly payments versus quarterly, what they used to pay. But they're still more than a month typically, right? They're a month plus a few weeks sometimes.
Monthly actually means quarterly, and quarterly in the past meant like twice a year.
So what I've always said though is, or what we've only done that a couple of times where we've told a sponsor or a CRO, we will continue seeing your patients, we will continue entering data, but you can't come and monitor. And that usually will
Beautiful.
Get them back on track. So we took a few studies that were difficult. That study went on. That was a very easy study, but because the team wasn't a good team, that study went on probably 3 or 4 years longer than it should have, trying to fill their numbers, make their numbers. So that was a struggle in the beginning because you're waiting for studies to come in.
Yeah.
You're waiting, you're trying everything to find studies. Maybe like we went with a couple brokers, which I don't recommend necessarily.
Don't do it. I hear you, Ann. I tell them all the time, don't do it. I did it too. I did everything. This is why we have our site services, because I knew other people would want this, and you don't want to get screwed over by brokers. It's unbelievable, even the most reputable brokers out there, what they're charging and how they get paid. So
well, that's when I got upset, was when I by accident got the budget sent to me that they were supposed to get.
It was one of those models. Okay.
So then I realized, wow, they're taking a good percentage of what we should be getting.
So I had my model I had with a broker, which is why I kind of like planted the seed for why I should start my site services eventually. I had I partnered with a broker. Partnered is a very loosely used phrase, but they would charge us a percentage, whether we enrolled patients or not, of everything that the sponsor would allow us to enroll.
Oh wow!
I didn't read the fine print. They didn't explain it to me this way. I just wanted to get studies, seemed risk-free. And I actually ended up losing money on the study because I only enrolled like 2 patients. They charged me for 10, and those 2 didn't even complete, but they charge you for all 10 as if they complete. So you got to really be careful. It sounds
you really do have to be careful with that.
You get what you pay for.
There are a few that are good. But I don't recommend it unless you're starting out.
No.
And then you better really be paying attention to what you're...
Get studies on your own. Network with people like Rod. Hire a company like us. We only charge $1,000 a month. That's it. We'll even do your budgets for you. I mean, there's ways to get studies outside of brokers and like signing your life away.
Clinicaltrials.gov, like you always say, is a good resource.
The best way to do it. So from 2006 till now, the sponsors have improved payments, at least the speed. I've noticed they've gotten a little better in that sense. Are you seeing the same thing?
Yeah, I think they've improved it quite a bit. A lot of it's direct deposited to our accounts now. But I feel like it's improved.
Direct deposit.
If you have trouble with payments, it's always good to try to figure out who to contact and then stay on them.
Yeah, back in the day, they would give you some guy's number in India, and they know that he would be awake when you're asleep. You're not going to call him at 3 a.m. I remember those days waiting for the mailman to come before the direct deposit.
I just ended a study like that where I would email him late in the afternoon, knowing that I wouldn't get it. response from him until the next day. But he responded, but I was on him every month.
So, you guys diversified over the years, or are you still pretty much doing the same kind of studies?
No, we're actually we're expanding right now. We're actually looking at a phase 2 study, which is new for us, and it has some overnight stays. There's a few in the beginning of the study, and then 6 or 7 days at the end. So that's a new concept for us. We haven't had an overnight type study.
Having those bed days.
Yeah,
Those are good.
we have an assisted living clinic or building right across the street from us, so we're going to rent some space there.
Beautiful.
Get that going.
That's the model. And what about PIs? As far as PIs, are you always on the offense? I know, like, I always say that, and then I don't actually do it all the time until I need to. I mean, I'm at the end of the day, I'm just like everyone else.
I'm
Do as I
guilty.
say, not as I do. But like, how are you guys doing with PIs?
I'm guilty of that. We've had a couple that we just recently lost, so I need to go back out and find some more.
Yeah.
I do have another one that I'm actually two other ones that we're collaborating with now. One is for a NASH
Okay.
and Crohn's ulcerative colitis study, and the other one is for a hot flash study.
Okay. So you
And
guys
I,
do that. I have a study. So I'm a contract CRA. I'm actually I can. They're looking for more sites for a ulcerative colitis study. So I will recommend you right after we're done with this call because I'm actually one of the CRAs on that study. I won't be monitoring your site. I only do Southern California. Um, but they are seeking sites. So this is a perfect example of networking and doing those kind of things to get the ball rolling. But as far as PIs, so what are some strategies you use to get PIs to get investigators to join you?
I feel like a lot of them would do research if they thought they had the time.
Empty house alone.
Um, and what I mean by that is that a lot of them feel like they don't have the staff or the time to do it. So our mottos or our platform or whatever you want to call it has always been that we will, like I said in the beginning, will provide all the services,
Mm-hmm.
do everything, and all you do is come in and see the patient, meet with monitors, and stay up on signing off on labs and
Mm-hmm.
reviewing SAEs and or the IND safety reports and the other paperwork that goes along with the study. But primarily, we try to offer the staff so that that's all they have to do is see the patient and sign their name. There's a lot of it, right?
Gotcha. And what, as far as the amount of studies you guys do per year, like on average, I know every year is different, but like on average, what are you guys doing as far as studies per year?
Well, right now we have 9 enrolling studies,
Wow.
and 2 of those aren't open yet, but they will be in the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
We have another, the one I was telling you about with the overnight stays that will be coming, and they want us to be able to start immediately on
Those are
that.
great studies, by the way. You'll like that one, especially the overnight stays.
And then we have a flu study for the winter that we usually have.
Okay.
We try to have those. It's funny because in this industry, you don't know what studies are going to turn out to be. Sometimes you don't know what studies are going to turn out to be really good and profitable.
Right.
We took a gout study early on, not realizing or understanding that was an indication that a lot of sponsors or pharmaceutical companies were looking at. So we ended up doing another 3 gout studies with that same pharmaceutical company because of that.
Wow.
And, since then we've done another 3 or 4 gout studies over the years. And that's the same with NASH right now. If you've got sites out there that aren't looking at NASH, Crohn's, or ulcerative colitis, there's a lot of studies for those, just like, like cancer studies, there always seems to be a lot of those. But right now, the industry is doing a lot of NASH. They're doing a lot of Crohn's and ulcerative colitis, IBS type stuff. So you have to be multi-specialty.
Now, as far as your coordinator allocation, I understand you and your wife. Are you guys still full-time coordinators?
No, I wear many hats.
Okay.
I'm sure you can imagine.
Yeah.
You know, IT and HR and recruitment and some recruitment, getting studies, new studies. When I say recruitment, so there's a lot of things and budgets, and so on the research. I do the research director work and anything else that needs to get done. But she is the primary coordinator, and we have had up to 3, maybe 4 actual straight coordinators that they took their studies and they ran with them. And they didn't do anything, they did everything on the study. Mm-hmm. And I think that's probably the way a lot of sites run. But on the flip side, I know a lot of sites that run with, like us, with a really good coordinator, a really good assistant coordinator, mm-hmm. a really good EDC person, and a lot of study coordinators are doing recruitment. So we have a recruiter. So Annie is able to do those studies because she's got such a good assistant and an EDC person. Our EDC person actually does source for us and our and other stuff, but mm-hmm. Annie is the primary coordinator right now and has been for the last 2 years.
Wow. Yeah, I remember when I met you, you were telling me that as well. So I think that's a really good model when the owner is that involved, like to the point where they're in the trenches with the other employees. It becomes easier to hire coordinators because you can hire research naive and then train them. Oh, by the way, didn't you have one of our CRA Academy interns there?
We actually did. Yeah, we did. And they were really good.
Thank you. That's good to hear.
So we've had 3 or 4 interns, 1 from you and 2 or 3 from another place. And they're great to have. They help out a lot. Mm-hmm. But it's kind of fun to show them the ropes and get them involved in different things that they're not going to learn in the classroom.
That's right. Get your hands dirty. Last thing, we're going to have to do a part 2 and 3 because we're going to get into the future of clinical research, where you think the industry is headed. Everyone has opinions. Who knows? But I don't want to get into that in this video. Patient recruitment. Okay. Huge. The industry's #1 biggest problem. Low accrual rates. What have you experienced throughout the years? How have you been able to recruit patients for studies?
We have a person that worked with Annie at a different facility and came with us soon after. Well, she's been with us about 10 years, and so she did recruitment there. So she's really experienced at it. But it's shown me that there's a lot of sites that need a recruiter like we have. You need to have somebody dedicated just to recruitment. It doesn't sound like a full-time job, but it is.
Yeah, it's beyond a full-time job.
And I know sites that don't use the recruitment money that the studies offer. You always need to be using the money that they offer. And when you've used it up, ask again. Mm-hmm. Because if you're using it and you're getting results, they will give you more money.
So what are some of the strategies your recruiters do, if you can share?
They, there's probably a whole nother topic would be the Accurians and other recruiters of the world. My phone keeps slipping down on me. they're recruiting on the side for a lot of these studies. The central campaigns that Accurian and some of these other companies do. Our recruiter has to keep up with that, and that can be pretty overwhelming depending on the study.
Okay, I see.
So that's a full-time job almost in itself, because if you've got a study like testosterone, like we just are doing, we got 1,000 leads.
Wow.
So, but besides that, clinical trials, or not clinicaltrials.org, I was going to, yes, they're great, but Clinical Connection is one place that we advertise. We also advertise on Craigslist, which surprised me. She turned me on to that.
Yes, it works.
It surprisingly does. Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook.
Wow. Okay. A lot of a lot of internet things. What about going out in the community? Are you guys? Have you found that works?
We do that occasionally. We did a Crohn's ulcerative colitis chapter organization here locally last month at Indian Field, where the Indians play for Indianapolis baseball. We did a health fair there. So we do health fairs. We've done the Black Expo in the past, which was which is a big deal here in Indianapolis. They do a big expo every year, and they have a health fair within it. So we do those. We've done lunch and learns. What else?
Are you relying? Are you one of those sites that is able to rely on their PIs for recruitment, or are you one of those sites where you have to do it on your own?
We have to do it on our own.
Yeah, us too. Well, some of our clinics, it's tough.
That is a whole another subject that I've never been able to find the answer.
What's that?
Complete answer on is why won't the PIs refer patients?
Yes, I have an issue like that right now at one of my sites, and
they're great PIs, but there's a lot of PIs that just don't refer. They forget. They get busy.
There's a lot to unpack in that one. I mean, we probably should do an entire video on that. Matter of fact, I'll write it down. We're going to do a future of research with you and PIs and patient recruitment. As we wrap up, Rod, thank you very much. This is incredible. I'm glad I was finally able to interview you. Where can people reach out to you if you want them to? If not, don't reach out to me.
You can find us. We have a website, www.investigatorsresearch.com. So Investigators Research Group is here in Indianapolis. We're on Facebook as either IRG Research or Investigators Research Group, and Twitter and Instagram.
Okay, so
you can call me, 317-297-7999.
Wow, you're going to get people calling you, Rod. I'll put the links to the website underneath the YouTube and in the podcast show notes. Thank you very much, Rod. I mean, we can easily do this 40-minute video. It can be easily 4 hours. We're going to have to do more. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you to Ann for also helping us out. Next time, let's have her on as well. And then if you are still in touch with our intern that we sent, tell her to please contact me so we can do a Skype with her as well. I want to get her perspective on working hands-on in the industry.
Well, I've always enjoyed your videos, and even I still ask questions of Dan.
Yeah, we always text back and forth, like different things that we're working on.
There's a lot of times I know the answers, but it's good to hear somebody else's explanation of that question.
Absolutely.
And if you haven't read Dan's book, you need to.
Oh yeah, do you have one, Rob? Did I give you one?
I do have one.
Did I send you one?
It's currently on Annie's desk. Yeah, you sent one to me.
Okay, good. I was about to say.
But it's a great book from A to Z. It tells you everything. that you need to know, pretty much.
Yeah, thank you very much for your support, Rod. It's always good, and when you're in this industry, to network. Whether you're a CRA, whether you're a coordinator, whether you're a site owner, whether you're a PI, whatever it is, network with people. Here's how you want to network. Network with people that are kind of on the same level as your site. I think that's us. Like, we started right at the same time. Network with people that are further ahead and maybe where you're striving to be, but also network with people below you. Like, you need to do all of that. It gives you fresh perspectives. Then you're on the same plane with colleagues, and then you have the aspirational. So you try to network. You can never not network with enough people. It's crucial. I don't care if you don't want to be a site owner. It's good for anybody in this industry.
That is the number one thing, I think, that is the most important thing in this business. Is networking. Network.
Thank you, Rod. I appreciate it so much. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. You can contact Rod. He gave his phone number. You can call him. Yeah. They can text you there, too? Or they call you there?
I can give you they can call the office. My cell phone is 317-796-8093. I've always given it out and let people text me. So.
Mind blown. You may regret that, but thank you. Everybody's going to be texting Rod. No, seriously, he's a great person to network with, especially if you're somebody that owns a site or is thinking of owning a site. Rod's there. People can text me too. We need to build our community so that we can share with each other. And we're part of a informal site sharing, email thread, which we may not get into, but there's ways to network everywhere. I know some people do it on WhatsApp, others do it on Facebook, others just text, others just wait till they go to conferences. Whatever it may be, you can never do enough of it, so just keep doing it.
There's a group that called the Clinical Trials Experts that me and another site started, and that's a group of us that network. And you can find that group on Facebook.
I will join. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you, Rod. Thank you, everyone, for watching, listening. We'll catch you all later. Go out there and network with somebody. Take care.